Today. I'd like to go ahead and call the Mrs. Huerta, have you received any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing that there's none, I'd like to go to the next item, which is the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
I move for approval.
Okay, we have an approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we have our financial report.
Sergio Villasana, Director of Finance and Procurement. Good morning, board members and Mr. Chairman. The financial presentation before you is for the month ending December 31st, 2024. And as soon as we get the presentation up. Sorry, just looking for the clicker. Okay, we'll start with this first slide. This first slide is a overview of the financial position for the 3 months ending December 31st, 2024. And if we start off with the middle column, it's a summary of your amended budget for the fiscal year. So this year we start with a fund balance of $8.4 million, which is our actual number. We don't anticipate any changes throughout the 2024 audit to change that number, so we think that's pretty safe. Budgeted revenues are $3.5 million. Budgeted expenditures of $10.1 million with an estimated ending fund balance for the fiscal year of $1.8 million. We move over to the right column here. We start again with our actuals fund balance of $8,400,568. We have revenues as of December of $1,200,113, and what that consists of is $1.1 million of taxes and about $78,000 of interest income. Next, we have expenditures of $902,063, and major expenses there consist of $432,000 transferred out to the TIRZ number 3 Capital Improvement Fund, and then we have another $330,000 that's been paid as of December to the Downtown Management District for management services. We have another $79,000 expensed out to the city for administrative services. And finally, we have another $50,000 paid to the Buccaneer Commission. This next slide is a forecast of scheduled commitments as of December 31st, 2024. If we start in the first row, first column, we have our beginning fund balance of $8.4 million, which is carried forward from that first slide. And the next column over, estimated annual revenue, that is the budgeted amount of $3,585,218,000. So next we have our commitments columns, the next two columns over. Now these commitments haven't been fiscally paid, and so these are amounts that are committed but not paid. And so we have $1,423,020, and we'll have details on those commitments in the upcoming slides. We have admin and other expenses of $3,306,034, and those admin expenses are largely consist of a one-time budgeted transfer out. One-time budget amount of $1,524,152,000 for one-time expenditures. You also have $650,000 budgeted for one-time special projects. Next, we have the actual expenditures, which come from your financial statement of $902,063. This leaves an estimated fund balance for the fiscal year of $6,354,579. Rolling that down to fiscal year 2026, you have your beginning fund balance column again of $6.3 million. The next column over, we have estimated annual revenues, and we can see from 26 through 28, we're keeping revenues flat as a conservative approach to estimate revenues. We have current and future incentives ranging from $3.2 million in 2026 to $4.3 in 2028. And then we have admin and other expenses in future years of about $2 million. Those future year admin expenses and other expenses consist of $875,000 of the downtown management contract, $300,000 of clean team assessment match, $318,000 for city admin costs, $200,000 for right-of-way items, and about $100,000 for bike patrol. At the end of this, roughly about 2028, you have about $70,000 at this point available for future commitments.
Yeah, Chairman, can I just interrupt Sergio for a minute? So, Sergio, what we're saying is some of these commitments are many years in a row, right?
Yes.
Or multiple year commitments?
Yes, sir, and we'll show those commitments in the upcoming slides.
Right,
as well.
so on the 4-year forecast here, essentially, if revenues come in as forecasted and expenditures stay as we have planned or the board has approved, at year 4, all that remains is $70,000?
Yes, sir. If we spent all those commitments, if all commitments are met,
Okay.
we still have a surplus, and that's with a conservative revenue forecast, and we anticipate that should grow.
Yeah, okay, just to point that out. So there's no real financial room for a big incentive project then, right?
Not at this point, no.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
This next slide is the project-specific development. Now, these commitments here are not part of this previous schedule that I showed y'all, the slide before. These project-specific development projects are based on specific revenue parameters based on agreement that have to be earned. Certain property tax revenue growth needs to be earned to pay for these. So essentially, it's a wash to your bottom line. So revenue growth is generated, and then these commitments would kick in, and so there should be a zero impact. And so that's why we keep those off the previous schedule. Just to highlight a couple here, you have a total project-specific development commitments of $3.8 million. And the largest two there is Homewood Suites Hotel with $1.5 million committed, the Hotel Indigo of about $1,048,000. I do apologize, we have some typos with Hotel Indigo throughout the presentation. We'll get that corrected next go around here. Next slide. We have the targeted vacant property improvement commitments. Now these start the commitments that we did have part of our forecasted commitment schedule. So here for targeted vacant properties, we've committed $1.2 million to multiple projects, or to a couple of projects, and we have $465,000 committed to the Holiday Inn Express and $775,000 committed to Hotel Indigo. Next, we have the commercial finish-out commitments. We have a total of $148,000. There's about 8 developers here where we spread that $148,000 out. Next, we have the Downtown Living Initiative commitments with a total of $3,524,000 committed, with the largest one being $3,060,000 to 416 Flats. Next, we have Streetscape and Safety Improvement Program with a total committed of $5,323,982 over the next 4 years here. Some of the larger ones here to highlight is Hotel Aria at $1,383,500. And then we have the Hotel Indigo at $2,951,138. Lastly, we have the Rooftop Activation Program with a total of $2 million committed. I also have a little typo there under projects. That's CNCP Marnock should be Holiday Inn Express. We have a commitment of $1 million, and then Hotel Indigo, we do have another commitment of $1 million. And then I'll take any questions. That concludes the presentation.
Are there any questions from the board? I have one thing that I want to just, again, reiterate. City manager talked about this, is that going forward, you know, we've got to be really selective, I think, in terms of future projects that we're looking at, and make sure that we stay within, at the end of 2028, if we're sitting at 70,000, then we have to just make sure that we exercise good project management and stay on top of a lot of these projects so that they don't have any creep. So, Board Member Garza.
Yeah.
No.
One more time.
There you go.
I've got a couple of concerns just about the numbers. I mean, I see where we're projecting our revenue to be $3.2 million going forward, but this year it looked like our revenue was 1 point some odd million, and we had projected it was going to be 3.2. So my question is, what are we going to do differently in order to be able to actually hit those projected revenue numbers going forward? Because if we don't get the projected revenue going forward, we're going to have a problem trying to fund some of those projects. The other side is looking also at the revenue for this year, 2024, last year, 2024, and the amount of expenses that we had, particularly on administrative expenses, $3.some-odd million in administrative expenses. I just don't see that we're putting enough money in the incentive programs, which was the whole purpose of the tour, of the TIRZ, and we're pushing more and more of our city's administrative cost over. I saw before in some of the budgets where I saw some of the street projects, and I'm all for fixing streets uptown and downtown, but I saw where Taylor Street was going to be fixed with, or going to be funded with some of the money from the TIRZ. And again, we pay taxes uptown, and I'm grateful for the improvements being made on Upper Broadway. Certainly, right now is a big change. We didn't have to go down and have to tear it all out and engineer it. We used city crews. I mean, that was prudent, and the traffic level or the traffic volume is low on those streets, so that's all right to do a basic scrape back and then overlay. And using city crews doesn't require us to spend a bunch of money on engineering fees in order to be able to do the project. But I just don't see how we're going to be able to incentivize enough projects, particularly on the housing initiatives, downtown living initiatives, which we need in order to have a sustainable downtown. I mean, again, hotel projects were fine, but I have some concerns. Even in the one housing initiatives project that was on the board, it's looking at being funded in years 2028 and 2029, and on your schedule, 2028, we were already going to be down to $70,000. So I don't even see that housing initiative project being funded, even with the numbers there that are there. So again, please explain to me what we're going to do to reduce the administrative costs that are being passed on to the TIRZ. We're funding the bike patrol, and I'm suggesting we don't need some police present downtown, and also some of the street improvement projects. But I just don't see how the dollars for the TIRZ and funding those activities are going to help what we need to have downtown, which to me is going to be additional housing units. So again, just to answer my questions, I'm representing Del Mar, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to make a viable downtown in the long term. And we're part of this TIRZ, we're partnering this TIRZ because we want to see the right dollars spent on initiatives that are going to be able to create a sustainable downtown. So again, just those are the questions that I have for staff and for the TIRZ committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Vaughn.
Those are some great
What-
comments. I'm really
What do I
concerned
hit?
about the administrative expenses.
It's not on?
Now it's on.
Can we get a more detailed list of what those administrative expenses are? The numbers, I mean, we need some meat in those numbers. Or is it on there and I'm not seeing it?
We can get you that calculation. It's based on the percentage. We do have an indirect cost study done annually, and those are rates that are generated from that study of what the cost is to operate the overhead for the city. So we can come up with something to provide those.
I'd just like to see what you're spending it on.
All
All the administrative, that 3 million something. I'd like to see something on that.
Sure, that gets transferred over to the fund, the general fund.
Yeah.
And that is, it's not specifically itemized. It's used in total to fund the operations.
So explain that. It's not itemized so we can see what it's spent on?
Yeah, Heather Hilbers, the city manager. So yes, that $3 million is a combination of the amount that comes back to the city for staff time, along with the amounts, there's almost $1 million that's paid to the downtown management district for their staffing, their expenses, office expenses, that kind of stuff. Along with, in that $3 million, I believe that includes the Taylor Street project, and it includes, I think, the docks at the marina, that was all approved during the budget. We can definitely come back. So during the budget process, we do go through all of those expenses in great detail, but we can include more detail on the financial report.
Yeah, I'd just like to see what they are and see what the staffing is and all of that, what that comes up to. Thank you.
Of course, no problem.
So that's something that we could have available for the, prior to the next TIRZ meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can send that out. And I did want to comment just on the board member Garza's question. So the 1.2 million that you're seeing up there is only a year-to-date number, and that's property taxes. And so the majority of our property taxes are collected in January. So that is only through December. So we do not, we don't see any reason why we're not going to hit the budgeted amount of $3.5 million for the budgeted revenue. So we don't see that's a problem. The other thing is that making, you leave the revenues revenues flat because we don't want to assume future revenues. So we know that we will probably be receiving future revenues, but for the years going out, we leave those flat, and then we will have growth, we know that, but to make sure that we have our commitments covered, we don't increase those on an annual basis. The other reason that that is only going out through 28 is the TIRZ expires in fiscal year 28. And so if we want to continue past 28, we will need to make sure that the TIRZ is extended. And that is something that is going to be brought forward for consideration within the next several months. Because right now we do have a hard stop in the fact that the TIRZ expires its first 20-year term in 28. So that's why the financials don't go beyond that.
Board Member Sedgwick.
Heather, following up on that,
Where's
recognizing that everybody's got a great deal of concern about this $70,000
Understood.
at the end, and I'm not asking you to put your neck out there,
Sure.
but we know the revenues are going to be higher.
Yes.
At least that's a very fair assumption. What do we really think that number looks like?
So what we can do is we can go through over that period of time, look to see what projects are going to be added on, give an estimation of what our average growth is year over year, and then layer on some of those larger projects. We know that we've got larger projects that are coming on that will increase that substantially. Those are really needle movers. And so we will go through and give an estimate of when we think those are going to come on the tax rolls and what we think that impact is going to be.
Because as we sit here today, we can't approve any other projects.
Technically,
Based
yeah.
upon that, we would be remiss because next week's statement would have a negative number here.
Yes.
If we approved another project. So I think we're going to have some method of realistically looking what this revenue is going to be.
Sure.
Following up on what you're saying, Rudy, that otherwise we can't approve anything.
Yes, yes.
So,
But
thank-
yes, we can do that.
Thanks. Board Member Garza, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question because of the comment related to the $3.3 million administrative cost. There was also another line item that added $904,000, almost $1 million in expense line cost. And so again, I'd like that $904,000 also explained.
Okay,
Thank you.
Now we can do that.
thank you. Board Member Scott.
Well, I want to applaud the board for your spending spree. It's good to see that you guys have been out spending some money. Now, I'm sad about us new kids on the block because $70,000 to spend is just doesn't excite me. I would like that. I'd like the information about all the projects. I assume it was in the budget when it got approved during the budget process, but I don't want to wait for the next TIRZ board. So if we could just, I assume it exists anyhow because they approved it. So if you'd send it on. It's been a while. Second thought, downtown housing, very important to me. Had a conversation with city manager yesterday about my priorities. That's one of them. $70,000 is not going to build a lot of units. But the reality is, if somebody were to come to City Hall today, they probably wouldn't be, built, until 28 anyhow. So I get that my question is, how soon is it possible to renew the TIRZ? Do you have to wait till it ends? That's within 12 months? Because you want to pick the right time when everybody, ooh, this is doing a great job.
You can do it at any time. So there's not a requirement that it needs to be, and that's why we're actually bringing forward for conversation the extension to go ahead and get it straightened out. Because to your point, a lot of the projects, as a matter of fact, a lot of the projects that have been awarded over the past, say, 6 months or a year, most of them are coming online in 27, 28. So really, their revenue is not going to be reflected as much in those outward years because they're just going to be coming on. And just a reminder, the way that the value works is if that building is finished in, say, February, that tax effect doesn't come on until January 1st of the next year. That's when it's appraised. And then it's not billed till October of that next year, and we don't collect it till January of that next year. So there can be almost a 2-year lag or year-and-a-half lag from when that's completed for us to be able to get that full revenue. And so when you start looking at the way what we're awarding now, most of those are not going to be finished until some of these bigger projects will not be finished till 27 or 28. So their revenue technically is not even being reflected because the TIRZ ends in 28.
So basic math is if we're collecting three, whatever it is, 3.5 now, when they all come on board, we should be collecting much more.
Yes,
or more.
exactly. So we'll go through and we'll work with the downtown management district and look to see when some of these projects are supposed to come on, build a forecast of estimations of what we think that might look like.
Yeah.
Depending, based off of our average growth along with those projects that are coming on, and we can bring that back to y'all for more discussion at the next meeting. But in the meantime, we will distribute out the budget presentation that was used that has a lot of this information detailed on it, along with a little bit greater accounting, or not a little bit, a greater accounting of what those actuals are compared to what was budgeted.
And the TIRZ is created just by votes of the participating bodies, right? We don't.
So actually, the city creates the TIRZ. Our participating taxing entities participate through an interlocal agreement. So it is the city TIRZ, but Del Mar participates through interlocal agreement. They commit a percentage of what their revenues are, and then the county participates through an interlocal agreement and contributes and pledges a percentage of their revenues.
I guess my point is, if we wanted to, we could renew it.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So it's in our control to pick the right time to
Yes.
renew it. But once renewed, you could start to look at projects that would
Exactly.
break ground January of 26, but wouldn't come online until 28, 29 anyhow. And then
That
that's
is
when
correct.
you'd start. You'd have money to
Yes.
incentivize it.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. That's
And,
fine.
and something to point out too is the last contract we brought for consideration was the one for the Hotel Indigo. So that contract, because that hotel is not going to be coming on until 27, 28 technically, we actually have language in that contract that if the TIRZ is not renewed, that really that agreement becomes backstopped by the general fund, because we are making a commitment to that developer that we're going to rebate that money back to, or going to incentivize them for that. And so if the TIRZ is not renewed, that contract specifically would be backstopped by general fund money.
Well, that's a good question. And so is there some document that says what commitments we've made that extend past the TIRZ? Is that what you're saying? So
Yes.
like Indigo, we gave them $1 a year for 5 years, and the TIRZ ends in 3, so we backstopped it with 2 years of $1 from the general fund. That would be very interesting to see. I just assumed everything was set to go away at the end of the TIRZ, because that, it's
Yeah.
not.
It depends on how the contracts are are written.
Are there other agreements that extend past the current TIRZ termination?
Yes, actually several of them. The Homewood
Really?
Suites one extends past the termination because they're project specific, and so they're paid out over a series of years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good for y'all to backstop, to not wait for it to be renewed. Well done. I'd like to see what those are, because
Sure.
my thought was that's just brand new money that we could use to incentivize, but I hear what you're saying is it's maybe brand new money, but some of it's already committed to. I'd like to see that.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. President. What's he?
Board Member Sedgwick, do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, there's no action that is required for this item, so I'd like to go to the first agenda item, which is the election of officers. So I'm opening nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mark Scott.
I'd like to nominate Carolyn Vaughn.
Any other nominations? So we don't get the same help with this, I just, okay, I get a little spoiled. Okay,
Start for yourself.
all right, so right now, any other? So I will go ahead and close the nominations.
Oh, okay. Oh, she was voting. I thought she was voting.
She did.
We jumped it down a little bit.
Okay, sorry, well, okay, so I went ahead and closed the nominations. So with that, right now, we have Board Member Vaughn and Board Member Scott. So I will start.
We have one for Vaughn.
We have one for Vaughn.
Actually, two. Gil said Vaughn.
Vaughn,
Mark, Scott.
one for Scott,
Scott.
another for Scott. Vaughn,
Vaughn.
so we have 4 for Vaughn. Mark,
Scott. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark, Vaughn.
And then you?
I already voted.
You did?
Yeah, I said Vaughn.
Oh, okay, I didn't see
The other
that.
board member?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Sedgwick, board member. Scott? And Vaughn. Okay, so we're at 6-4, if I did that right? Yes, that's correct. Okay, so Mrs. Vaughn will be the vice chair.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is a motion approving tax increment reinvestment zone board meeting calendar.
Good morning, board members. Arturo Marquez, Director of Economic Development. So before you, you have the suggested calendar for the year 2025. Just to kind of point out, we are looking at May and June as being the two board meetings where we would host, and not host, but actually just go through the budget process. And because this is one of our most active TIRZ, we do have a little bit more meetings set up on this one.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a motion to approve a downtown development agreement with Furman Foundry LLC for improvements to the property located at 418 People Street.
I move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do you, Board Member Garza, do you have a question?
Is there a presentation going to be done or not? Or I wasn't here last time. I don't know if there was a presentation done
Okay.
or not.
The one modification I need to make actually to the caption is that this is actually for the, okay, let me start. So this is a motion to approve, no, I'm on the wrong one. This is a motion to approve a downtown development agreement with Furman Foundry for improvements to the property located at 418 People Street, Suites 110 and 111. Suite 402, that's a clerical error. It is not Suite 402, it is Suite 110 and 111, for a total incentive amount not to exceed $16,428. So here is the site. This is Furman Foundry. It was purchased by a local business owner, Stephen Ryback, who's in the audience with us. And this is preparing this site to be leased out to a new first floor tenant. This is very important because it creates that street activation, which is something that we are seeking to prioritize through our incentive programs. This is the current condition of the interior of the property. In the space. This is the current condition of the exterior. Here's a project concept so you can kind of see what is envisioned for the interior. And then the exterior, this is another project where we will be adding a front door to the front of Furman Foundry. So this is now the second tenant that is going to be connected directly to that street front. Again, prioritizing that street front activation. And then here is the floor plan. This will be adjacent to Thunderbird Wine and Spirits, which is the first tenant that we have in that first floor space. So we're really excited and grateful to Stephen for not only making this investment, but for being very supportive for other entrepreneurs and small businesses who are aiming to go in to this first floor space and relocate downtown. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing that there's no questions, I do have a question, though. Do we need to go ahead and make the change since it's incorrect where it says Suite 402?
I would, sir, just for the record, we could just amend it just to show that it's Suites 110 and 111.
Okay, if we already have a motion and a second, do I have to go back and?
No, we can do a motion amend at this point. So
Okay.
if someone would just make one.
I move to amend to include suites, what?
110 and 111.
110 and 111.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to amend to Suite 110 and 111. I also have a motion and a second.
Well, let's do the motion amend first. So
Okay.
we'll vote on that first.
So all in favor of the motion to amend?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, and then we'll just pass the motion as amended.
Okay.
Ma'am?
I'll move.
Okay, all right.
I have a motion and a second to move as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a motion to approve the First Amendment to the TIRZ 3 Downtown Development Reimbursement Agreement with ZJZ Properties, QOF LLC, for a property located at 715 Mesquite Street.
Yes, Chairman. So this item is an amendment to the Mesquite Street parking lot agreement, and we have a presentation here to refresh you on the scope of the project. So this is actually a renovation to the old Caller Times parking lot. It was approved previously with a project cost of $92,000. They are now looking to add signage to the project, so that brings it up another $22,000. This amendment intends to reimburse them half of that, so increasing their agreement by $11,000. Here is the previous condition of the parking lot. So you can see it was very uncared for, very dark. It was really a source of blight and a safety concern for our downtown businesses. There are a number of businesses in the area that could use this parking lot, and so the property owner aimed to put it back into operation and back into use. You can see the condition is already vastly improved. They repaved the parking lot, they striped it, they added lighting, and now they're looking to add signage. So they're looking to add 40 pay-to-park signs, 10 enforcement signs, parking poles for the signage, and 2 entry signs. So this really is a project to help upgrade and solidify our private parking supply, putting that back into use and managing it kind of as a product for all of our downtown visitors who like to patronize our downtown establishments. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I move for approval.
So we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to know how many spaces the project actually had. Parking spaces, please. I'm just going to get it.
145 parking spaces.
Perfect, great, thank you.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You know, I brought this up before, the space caddy corner, are they going to put up any fencing or across from the goldfish?
Can you repeat that, sir? I'm sorry.
The space across caddy corner, across between next to Artesian.
Oh, yes, sir. That property owner is also looking at making some improvements. So we're in conversations with them right now.
And are they going to put up any fencing because people still park there? I mean,
In the field?
yes. Well, it's not a parking area. I know they're not supposed to, but
Right.
we don't enforce it. So have we talked to the property owner? Because, you know, now they got this investment and we want to encourage people there.
Yes.
I often get people asking.
Oh, you're concerned about like undercutting from the field across the street.
Yeah.
So we can talk to the city about enforcement about that. I know that the property owner is interested in keeping cars that are unauthorized off of the field, so that they no longer park there. So we can have a discussion on enforcement possibilities. I do know that they try to put like a chain link across some of what was at one point in time a ramp, but it seems to not be deterring parkers. So
Okay,
yeah, we can look into that. Yes, sir.
Board Member Garza, did you have anything else?
Just the reason I asked for the parking spaces is because I figured we were going to start enforcing some sort of standard on spaces that are currently being used, including that one across from the Goldfish and the Caller Times. You really, sometimes, I don't know what the number is, but there could be 250, 300 cars there on a given weekend, and if we're putting 145 online, you're going to make it difficult for the other 155 not to find a place to park. So the only concern that I have is that we're funding a bunch of little small businesses, including bars and restaurants. If you're going to put a parking access detriment to or obstacle to people going downtown, you're going to defeat some of the purpose of some of the businesses locating down there. So again, I just think it has to be a balanced approach in order to be able to get what you want. Thank you.
I will say, I do not believe that people would repeatedly, that you bottom out when you leave that parking lot. It can damage your car, so there's only a certain type of car that it can even park in that field. So I think that it naturally, like there will be people who have cars that they care about that will be looking to park in the parking lot rather than, inflicting damage on their vehicle. So that's one component, but yes, I understand and we'll work with the city on enforcement.
Okay. Board Member Campos.
Thank you.
I'm glad we are talking about parking, because that is the number one issue when we have, great events. That's, downtown is booming, right? But again, I would like to see a more neighborly approach, maybe, if that's the term. If we can make agreements, maybe, with some of these owners that, I don't see why they're blocking it off. Everywhere it's, they're trying to find a space and it's all blocked off. And I'm like, wow, that just seems, and the one that I'm thinking about, I believe is like maybe an attorney's office. It's right there on K-Space.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Do you know what space
Yes, the Ellison Law Firm. They manage their parking lot pretty strongly.
Yeah, pretty strongly, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess there's no other way to approach it except by, that is their property, so that's what they can do with it, huh?
Yes, ma'am. And I believe, there's definitely a significant expenditure requirement in order to make parking if you wanted to pay for a parking space,
right.
For instance.
Yeah,
that would have to be a whole nother investment. There's no reason why we can't look into that, so we can approach them and we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
I know that during the workday, they definitely want those parking spaces available for their tenants in the building that they own.
Mm-hmm.
But there are towing signs. We've attempted to also improve communication about that, because people go downtown at night, they go into these lots, they don't pay attention to the signage, and then they get towed. So we can definitely work with that. We'll work with the city parking manager as well in order to try to make some improvements there.
Yes, so that would be helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have a motion and a second already. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think we voted already, right? We already voted on 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right, thank you. The next item is a presentation item, DMD updates.
Okay, yes, sir. So this is just an item where we give you some updates on the work that we've been doing. As Heather stated, the DMD has an interlocal agreement with the reinvestment zone to provide services to facilitate rehabilitation and revitalization. So again, we just want to keep you updated on our activity. So the first one in placemaking, we do take some extra effort and make some installations in the parks in downtown. We think this is a very important location for programming. So this is just a recap of those installations that we did this past holiday season, including in La Retama Park, Artesian Park Winter Wonderland, on Peppermint Lane, Water's Edge Park, and we also put some holiday banners to bring that activity to the seawall. This is a partnership with a small amount of TIRZ money, but also private corporation funding that goes towards facilitating a majority of these improvements and these holiday activations. The next item is downtown trash receptacles. We had identified with the heat map spaces where the clean team was having to pick up trash on the street. So we went ahead and did just a second generation of trash can installations. This was originally the trash can selected from a Bond 2014 project. So we reordered those trash cans. They have a 10-year useful life. We have not had to replace a single one so far. And we put them in additional locations throughout downtown in partnership with the city who installed the trash cans after we specified and ordered them. So we're really happy about that. We began some planning work related to the Agnes and Chaparral conversion. This remains the one block of Chaparral Street that's one way, and it keeps all of our investment in South Downtown physically separate from everything in the Marina Arts District. So we did hold a meeting with the stakeholders in the area as well as city staff in November. We've received a draft of a study, and we're going to route that back through the stakeholders and the DMD board to get support for the concepts that they've proposed before we bring it to this board. And we're looking at kind of a medium time frame to get it plugged into the city's capital plan processes and get it executed so that we can kind of knit this all back together. PD headquarters lighting assessment. So the goal here was we had a very successful Mayor Paulette Guajardo's Illuminando Phase 1. which added lights to the trees on Chaparral Street. This has become a really signature project for us. The International Downtown Association even recognized us for being really innovative on how we're increasing safety in our downtown area. This is a project to extend that. Since we don't have any more trees on Chaparral Street, we are looking to add lights to the PD headquarters. So we had to first do a feasibility project to see if it was possible to even extend electricity on the outside of that building. Here's a rendering of what it would possibly look like. And so now we have to work with an engineering group to actually do the design before we figure out the costs. And I believe we're working on pulling together the different funding sources to get it executed, looking at a partnership on that item. But this is something that the mayor has prioritized, and so I'm excited that we're continuing to focus on it because it's a city-owned building, but it's just very dark. It makes the whole area very dark, and so this is something that we really need to upgrade and improve. So you can see what it looks like at night versus what we want it to look like at night. In economic development, we do have an administrative approval kind of critical path for projects below a certain threshold so that those projects can continue to move despite we are only able to get this TIRZ meeting together about once a month. Sometimes it's every other month. So for projects below a certain threshold, we're able to approve it administratively in partnership with city staff, and then we report it here to the board. So this is one of those projects. This is Bayside Pilates. It is going in a space that had been formerly occupied with Taylor Kirby Photography. Bayside Pilates is a really popular Pilates studio that's locally owned, and they are looking to go into Water Street Market. The total project cost is $106,000, but the grant that we have been able to administratively approve for them is $10,000. So we're excited that Bayside Pilates is coming to downtown. The next item is just an update on Hotel Indigo. So we continue to manage this project. And these are, again, for some of our new board members, these are just some highlights on the most recently improved large-scale project that we have gone through this board with. And then Thunderbird Wine and Spirits, this continues to move forward. This is the other project in the first floor of the Furman Foundry. And Thirsty, we conducted an extension, but work has begun on that renovation, so we're really excited about this. This is the former Sparkling City Comedy Club at the intersection of Chaparral and Man Street. This building has been vacant for decades, and so we have a local business owner, couple actually who've made that investment and are proceeding with the renovation. And again, it takes some time to get these projects through the approval process and properly engineered and properly designed, but it's very exciting when we see them start construction because it makes all that work completely worth all the trouble. And then in promotions, just a recap of our special events. Our goal here is to drive trips to the downtown that ultimately results in a purchase at one of our small businesses. So we had a significant number of visits inside the Marina Arts District, almost 150,000 that we tracked with our attendance tracker software. And we think this is a very successful tradition that we have established downtown. We also have our State of Downtown and the Downtowner Awards on February 20th. So hopefully everyone has received an invite to that and has plans to attend. So those are our DMD updates.
Board Member Campos.
I think I turned myself. Thank you. Well, it's a great presentation. Thank you so much. My only comment, of course, when I hear trees and I saw the improvement for the police station is, why can't we continue to, have plans to add more trees? I know that I get, as a matter of fact, just lately, an email about grants that we could apply for, the city could apply for more trees. So what would we need to do to incorporate that?
So we definitely are working on that currently. We are actively working on that. Water Street Reimagined proposes to take the shade cover on Water Street from 3% to 67%, adding a significant number of trees. So that's our first, that's the biggest thing we have. Of course, it is a very large infrastructure project. And the issue with the trees is that in order to get them to maturity, they require a lot of water, and especially in our current situation, we need to it has to be associated with the larger project. So that is,
Yeah, no, I do, and I understand that we are in a drought, but we still have to be able to plant trees, and that's part of it. And I think we've heard from the irrigation owners that the best way to grow trees is to do the drip irrigation. So I think that would be work hand in hand, showing how we can be the example.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Chaparral Street is covered in trees. It was not like that not so long ago. So I think that's our first successful project, and Water Street is going to be our next focus for the addition of that.
Yeah, so we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Board Member Vaughn.
I was just going to say, am I on? We don't have any water, and we need to be examples to the rest of the public, and I think we ought to start looking for the city at zero landscaping, things that don't require so much water. You can still make it beautiful without planting things that require water, because until we get water, those things I don't think we need to be doing.
Yes, ma'am. We are looking at native plants currently. The planters that you see have only been receiving natural rainwater. We know that, when it rains downtown, I know it doesn't impact the watershed, but it does put water in our planters. So we've already seen to manage that. We're, not pressure washing proactively. We're only responding to biohazard issues at this point in time. So that is something that we do keep in mind, and we do aim to have native plants. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Board Member Guajardo.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I was going to make the comment on both sides. I think trees are very important, and I think we need to look at, finding grants to plant them, but I don't think it's now. I think it would set a very bad example in terms of the public, looking at us to lead an example to Mrs. Vaughn's point. But I do think they're important. I think, like you mentioned, we're kind of out of places to plant trees, and you do have to, I think there's some silly saying, but it was a very smart one, about planting a tree today for what you want, right?
20 years, yeah.
20 years, 10 years from now. But now's not the time to plant trees, because they do require a lot of water. So anyway, as long as it's on the radar, and looking at grants is obviously a very good thing in terms of the trees. Thanks.
Board Member Campos.
Thank you. I just want to remind the public that back in 2012, I led a campaign called 12,000 Trees for 2012, and remind the public that it was during another drought, and that we were able to plant 7,000 trees during that time. So yes, we can plant trees, help lower the temperature that we need in downtown and everywhere else, and clean up our air. So I think we can still do both. Thank you.
Board Member Garza.
A couple things. Thanks for your hard work. I think the events and the lighting and all the projects that we've done downtown really add a lot and attract more folks downtown, more citizens downtown. A couple things. As I heard in the comment about the expenses and the administrative costs, talked about monies going to the docks in the marina, and there was a time before I came on the council back in 1990s, I think it was, city hired Peter Davidson, and the marina was in really bad shape, and he applied for a lot of grants that did a lot of the improvements in the marina at that time. Since then, I think the marina's fallen off a little bit, and we're looking for ways to fund projects in the marina, but I think that we should still continue to look to see what was done, and maybe call in Peter Davison, or I'm not even sure if he's still around, but see if there might not be some things that we can pick their brains about in order to be able to request the expertise that we need in order to be able to apply for grants in the marina. I know that Scott Cross over at the county has done a great job in applying for grants for our beaches and for projects on the beaches. So I think that we need to see, instead of using TIRZ money or general fund money for improvements in the marina, so we can't get back on track to apply for grants. Thank you.
Okay. Our last item is DMD 2023-2024.
You know what? I'm sorry. Can I add a comment?
Okay. Board Member Guajardo.
So just quickly, to Board Member Garza's point, so you made the comment, and we're just moving on. So how do we make that happen? In other words, how do we put focus, true focus on, let's really look into, grants. And I don't want to hear that we only have one grant person and blah, 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 because we have many departments who they manage, and they go seek out these grants. So I don't want that comment to just kind of, okay, we stated it and we're moving on. That's exactly what we were just doing. And that's not to point the finger at anybody, but that's almost to give direction, to say, how can we make that happen, even if it's very slowly, right?
I mean, we are making it happen. I mean, that's,
With grants?
There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. We don't come to y'all every day and tell you how that we applied for 10 or 15 grants. I mean, one of the big things we're looking at right now is, utilizing grants to help with the breakwater stuff.
So why don't we, so it is not miscommunicated?
Sure.
Why don't you show us?
Sure.
Here's what we are doing. And that should be on a quarterly basis, or whatever you think that should be on, because clearly the grant issue has come up, on the city side many, many times.
Exactly.
For years.
Yes.
Because we didn't have a grant writer.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the status is of the grant writer, and that's not for this meeting. But it's brought up a lot, because you have people, let's see, I don't remember, but many of our agendas accepting a grant, allowing the grant to be submitted over and over and over.
Yes.
And they all come from our police department. They're very, very focused on certain departments. I know the library does a very good job too, but I think we really need direction here and maybe it's just we don't know.
Exactly.
Because if I were on that side, my response right then would have been, oh, no, Mr. Garza, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And here's what we're doing. And I know you can't say all of it now, but let's bring it forth where I'd like to see it. I think Mr. Garza would like to see it on a regular basis. Here are the grants we're working on. And we recognize it's not like you have someone in your office that is just working on grants. But there are still many that I think a lot of work that you're saying that's probably being done and we don't know.
Sure, yes. Yeah, there's grants being applied for every day. So yes, we can definitely do that.
All right, see what it is.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Board Member Garza.
Comment, I promise. Thank you, Mayor, for highlighting or backing up the comment that I made. But sometimes, and I'm just going to suggest, sometimes when you apply for a grant, and again, it requires some support from people that might be involved politically. There's some members on the board that have some insight with maybe a board in state level or the federal level. I know Roland, Mark, Gil probably have contacts, and certainly the mayor does, at the state and the federal level. So some assistance from some folks, elected officials, sometimes helps to be able to reinforce your grant request position. And so again, unless public officials sometimes know of these grant requests, is little that you can do to be able to try to push the agenda forward. Thank you.
To add to Heather's comment, we did work at our last budget presentation. We got direction from this board that we should hold on the phase 1 of our ADA improvements from the assessment the DMD had conducted in 2023. And so we've been working with the Economic Development Department and the Grants Department to identify, and it depends upon the round of funding, right? So, but we have been working with them on identifying available federal grants to facilitate the ADA improvement. So that's one specific item that we've been attempting to move forward.
All right. Next, we have the DMD 2023-2024 impact report.
Yes, sir. So this is our DMD annual report. Because we have an interlocal agreement with the reinvestment zone, we do this report at this meeting. Some organizations do it at the council meeting, but we try to get this business done. We know you have the rest of the city to serve as well, so we plug it in as part of this agenda. So this is our impact report for FY24. This is just overall some organizational information. Our vision and mission statement. Our vision is to create the most vibrant downtown on the Gulf Coast by instituting a clean, safe, beautiful environment, creating a welcoming, well-designed, accessible waterfront, developing a robust, sustainable, desirable neighborhood, promoting remarkable, prismatic cultural experiences, and growing our team mentality, and local capacity to accomplish the vision. And these are each of our mission elements that make up our divisions in our organization. So we have different team members assigned to each of these mission elements, and everyone works on implementing these, and everything we do as an organization stems from these statements. We also have our values, so this kind of gives direction on how our team should operate on a day-to-day basis. So this is, we aim first to be dependable, optimistic, creative, purposeful, inclusive, and collaborative. I will now go through each of our mission elements. So in district operations, we aim to improve cleanliness and perceptions of cleanliness, elevate the standard of care for landscaping, create a consistent sense of security, collaborate with the community to mitigate adverse impacts of and safety perception issues of homelessness, and install and maintain lighting. So you have there our statistics for our clean team benchmarks. So we track every activity that is conducted by our clean team. Also, we provided some highlights to our regional safety coordination. So we have a contract with a national provider called Block by Block. Block by Block also provides service to San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and many of the large downtowns across the country. And our operations manager, Dylan Watson, is doing an excellent job, has received a lot of recognition from the Block by Block Corporation, to the point where he is now the regional safety coordinator for a 14 district region. So Corpus Christi's operations manager is the regional safety coordinator for a 14 district region, which is pretty significant, and again elevates the perceptions of our downtown district and really makes us seem like a professional organization, which is quite an accomplishment because we've kind of built this from the ground up. Additionally, we had 1,000 no accident days, so that was a significant accomplishment for us. In light maintenance, we replaced 1,900 feet of light strands on those Illuminando trees. We addressed the planters 8,400 times. We planted 4,900 plants, and we cared for the trash cans 17,000 times, and we have quite a few trash cans through the district. Additionally, regarding perceptions of safety, we have significantly increased perceptions of safety downtown. So this is our really the most important accomplishment. This is really kind of the bare bones. If you don't have a clean and safe downtown, no one's going to invest money, no one's going to come there, no one's going to open businesses. So this is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is that base level. So we've increased perceptions of cleanliness from 45% in 2015 up to 72% in 2023 when we conducted that survey, and perceptions of safety from 42% in 2015 up to 71% whenever we conducted this survey. So we are doing what we need to do in regards to operating the downtown district. In placemaking, we advocate for and support the implementation of catalytic infrastructure projects. So we champion, advocate, and facilitate, and then maintain infrastructure projects. The city will fund, construct, and inspect those infrastructure projects, but we kind of identify what is needed based upon the feedback from our stakeholders, and then we care for it afterwards. Additionally, we create beautiful streetscapes and interactive public spaces through urban design, ensure all downtown users have a connected, convenient, and safe route through downtown, enhance the parking system to serve diverse users, and implement family and tourist-oriented placemaking initiatives so that we have some activity throughout the downtown. This year, we partnered with CCRTA to do a shuttle for Art Walk. Additionally, we facilitated 5 new murals and got 4,900 square feet of downtown walls beautified through our mural festival. We facilitated the Agnes Chaparral conversation. We installed wayfinding, of course, the holiday installations, and dog waste stations were also installed. And these are all the infrastructure projects we're currently working with the city on. In economic development, I know this is the one that this board finds the funnest to talk about, but we have committed a significant amount of funding, or we've had a significant amount of funding committed this last year, $154 million committed for development downtown. We paid out $324,000. We have some very large projects underway underway for future hotels. We've improved our street level vibrancy, so we've mitigated vacancy downtown. And of course, we have a future residential development that we're excited. It's in the pre-development stages. We look forward to bringing that development agreement to this board. Additionally, we had 16 new business openings, and we had 12 projects announced or currently underway. So there's a significant amount of work being done on the economic development front. Promotions, promoting remarkable prismatic cultural experiences. We want to educate the community on downtown's offerings, elevate the market position of downtown, facilitate micro-communities, helping with the networking and kind of helping with the stickiness factor of Corpus Christi. Program signature experiences and foster opportunities for the creative class. So we continue to really knock it out of the park on social media. Our newsletter is really well engaged. We have the Downtown Run Club. Our events are very well attended. We had over 150,000 people visit Art Walk over the course of the year, which drives a significant amount of trips. We'll have an economic impact study soon to share with you all on that. In organizational management, we were able to rightly over break even this year, which was a significant accomplishment. Of course, this recognizes our advisory council members. We expanded the district for the first time in its history, which was a significant accomplishment because before 2021, that wasn't possible. So there was a change to the state law to facilitate that, and we took advantage and grew the downtown management district. We also built a new website that has all the information. It's really nice. It has all of our development information, all of our infrastructure project information, small business information, and really is a good face for our district. So we're really excited about that. And then again, just giving recognition to our advisory council and our businesses. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, and thank you to the team, because it's the DMD team that does all of the work. I get to stand before you and report on it. But again, we have mini teams for each of these mission elements, and everyone really buys into the mission and works very hard, and you can tell from our product, I believe. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the work that you and your team do, and also this is a great report. I like the way it's laid out and look forward to reading it in depth. Rebecca, I have one other thing I want to mention before we adjourn. I understand that Judge or Board Member Scott is Commissioner Mike Pusley will be joining us. Did you get notification of that?
No, I haven't. So did the
county
voted on that?
I believe so.
Okay. We'll double check and then make sure the invite goes out to the proper person.
I was contacted by Commissioner Pusley, and he just said to his regrets that he wasn't able to attend this meeting because of short notice. They switched things around.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, well, let me check on that, and then we'll get with staff and make sure he gets an invite. Okay.
Okay. Seeing that there's no other business, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.